Ryan Parshall, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thanks, John.
It's a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Kansas City, Missouri, close to my hometown, and I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about a range of people management and organizational leadership issues, and specifically how we can go about solving people issues, time issues, and profit issues to help our organizations be more successful. As we get started, I just wanted to share Ryan's brief bio with everybody. In Ryan Parshall's career, he's helped over 200 plus small to mid-sized business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies grow to their potential using strategy, process, organization, branding, marketing, and sales. He is a business growth coach and broker who has coached hundreds to success. He is as well the creator of the 10GS growth system and host of the Growth Engine podcast. And I know there's much more that you can share about your background. So I'll just hand it over to you. Anything else you would like listeners to know before we launch on into the conversation?
Really just that my whole world has been between these CMO roles and marketing and CEOs, and then myself being an agency owner. It's all revolved around business owners, CEOs, and marketing. So I have that podcast, the Growth Engine Show, where we talk about these scenarios and dynamics that happen in companies between the CEOs and CMOs and strategies and those types of things. So that's the world I live in, John.
Perfect.
Yep.
And, you'll get a chance at the end of the episode today to point listeners towards your work, your podcast, and those sorts of things. But I would encourage listeners to do that. I think you'll find a lot of value there. As we get started, again, framing the episode up today around solving people issues, time issues, and profit issues to help organizations succeed. Let's start with the people issues component. Like you said, you're coming from a strategy perspective of being this bridge between the CMO and the CEO, perhaps the CHRO, trying to make sure that everyone is communicating and we're ultimately we're all trying to have the same outcome, which is a really successful organization and business that brings value to the market consistently. And one of those key components has to be the people and the human capital within the organization. But there's all sorts of issues that we constantly are grappling with and dealing with. And frankly, a lot of organizations aren't dealing with them all that well. So what are some of those biggest issues that you see when you're coaching and working with leaders?
Yeah, I always start with the top or the owner, the CEO, and I look at what are people getting from him, right, or her? Like, what is the direction? What communication is happening from them about what the company is and what the company does? And I always start there because a lot of problems that happen with your teams and people actually are things they just don't understand, or it's kind of like raising kids. Like, the more boundaries you put on them early on, like the more confident and comfortable they are as they grow into adults, and they feel secure. Employees are very much the same way. Like, they want to know what the rules of engagement are. They want to know what they're responsible for. But number one is they want to know how they're going to be judged. They want to know how am I going to be measured? Like, how's my success going to be measured? And I mean, that's probably one of the biggest fails I've seen in working with businesses and leaders is this idea that, oh, well, we have a job description. It's a document. It's a job description. It's not telling them how you're going to measure them in success. And most of the time, if that person shared with the CEO how they were spending their time and breaking down their days percentage-wise, that CEO would probably disagree with how they're doing that. But those are conversations that often don't happen,
It's very true. And I can only chuckle as you're mentioning the job descriptions, because it's just a really poor proxy for like having those ongoing transparent conversations with your people to set expectations and to just manage those relationships and to help people understand what they need to be doing and how to succeed. And the fact of the matter is most organizations are really bad at updating their job description. So whatever the job description says probably isn't all that accurate, and congruent with what the person needs to be doing anyways. They morph and they shift over time. And, part of it depends on the composition of your team and just the shifting strategies and the external environment and the dynamics that your organization's dealing with as it's trying to remain relevant. And so the static job description is not enough. I mean, I would say, yes, try to have a really good updated job description. So when you're posting a job, you're at least looking for the right kind of person. And so when someone starts a job, at least they have a general idea of what they are going to be doing. But then it comes down to leaders needing to have ongoing mentoring and coaching conversations, ongoing performance conversations, and just be as clear as possible, be explicit, and help people understand. And that doesn't mean micromanaging. And sometimes leaders take it too far that direction. We don't want to micromanage, but we do need to set expectations, and we do need to clearly communicate them.
Yeah, well said. Most people don't look at the job description after they're hired, right? Like they don't even look at it. One of the ways that I think people can succeed in this area, I tell business leaders, like you should immediately put into your calendar an hour or 45 minutes, whichever one you like to do, and for a meeting, a one-on-one meeting every week with one of your team members. Like you should always have this ongoing dialogue, not to micromanage, as you said, but to have that repetition of understanding these are the things that this is how you're measured. Like these are the things that we expect. Like these are the responsibilities, but really that conversation bulkily, like that should be dominantly about how can I help you in your role? How can I help you? What are you doing? Because that's the opposite of micromanaging. What are you doing? How can I help? What do you got on your plate? And kind of like being a support for them is huge. And then a way that you can make them comfortable is saying, okay, these are the things that we know we have to get done as a team. We've decided these are the things, and how are you doing on those? Like, that's whether or not you get to the finish line on our deadline or milestone with this thing you've got to do, this task or this rock, right? Then that's how we're going to measure success for you, for the department, for me. We're all in this together thing, right? I want to go back on something though, John, is this from the top down thing, is the idea that the business owner almost always, not all the time, is a visionary. And what that means as an employee is you watch your boss or the president, you watch them like completely come up with new ideas every day. They're jumping from one thing to the next. You could hardly get done something on an initiative that he launched last week, and now he's jumped to something completely different. And how are employees supposed to have success if they're constantly chasing the visionary, right? And so the visionary having this operations person or an integrator, a buffer, right? This buffer thing is a key thing to the success of the people, individuals in that team, because they can't live like that. They are not all visionaries, else they'd probably be their own business owner. They'd have their own thing. And so I really am strong at getting business owners and CEOs to stop, focus, and we have all kinds of exercises and workshops we do this. What is most important? It's okay to have these other ideas, but keep your eye on the ball. And the ball is what? What is this thing? And so most of the time when a business owner calls me, the thing that's this repeat pattern almost always is they've grown a business or growing a business. And along the way, they've had that visionary mind where they've meandered, crossed, backed up, reversed. And if you drew a diagram of what this looks like, it's a tangled rope, right? Going nowhere. And I think that I can stop them, slow them down, and we can go through some exercises to really like get them to look, years down the road to point to, whether it's that we call the North Star, thing, or, just a vision of what this thing looks like down the road of where they're trying to go so that they can go a straight line, or straighter line to that path, because what they're doing in the meantime is they're burning out their people by changing direction and switching that. And people just get exhausted with that and they leave, they quit. Nobody has tolerance for that.
Yeah, really great point. I'm thinking of one organization I've worked with extensively, and that's exactly what they're facing with their CEO, someone who has tons of energy, tons of passion. It's clear, a very sincere person, but because of the way this individual handles themselves and kind of is constantly like it's like whack-a-mole, right? And they're constantly shifting their priorities. And so nobody around them ever knows what the thing of the day is going to be, or the thing of the week, and it just shifts so rapidly. And so it's like people are constantly just trying to manage like the CEO's expectations, and trying to manage and deal with all of that, rather than actually doing the work to move things forward. And so it's just a lot of wasted energy. And to your point, burnout, turnover, just like many organizations, this organization has faced a lot of high profile people leaving, and those sorts of things. And so it's good to have vision. Certainly we want leaders that have vision, and that have a strategic foresight and those sorts of things. But I've also found that many leaders, by the time they find themselves elevated to those levels, it's the really great ones that are still humble about it, and they still seek the input of those around them. And but there's many leaders who have this arrogance, largely because of the success they've had in their careers, but they feel like every last thought that slips into their mind is now some new strategic vision that they need to chase. And that's not vision. That's not strategy. That's just randomly going after every last little thing. And if you don't focus, you're never going to accomplish anything. And so having some intellectual humility as a leader, and continually looking back to whence you came, and turning back to the people who are around you, hopefully you're leaning on them, getting their insights, having them share their expertise, trusting in their expertise, then you can still be the visionary, and you can still drive the strategy for the organization, but it can be tempered and it can be focused. And that's what we need. Otherwise, like you said, people burn out, people leave, or their productivity level dips tremendously, and then that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people, teams, to know and understand that just like they are a person that has their own challenges and battles, and that the CEO they're human. Like their personality is one that's allowed the company to grow and be successful to some degree, right? Or crash, I guess. but they had something of talent there, and it was a gift. And that gift, that although it's really great for growing business, is not always the best for like stopping and really like treating everybody the way that you feel as an employee you should be treated. And the message I would tell people would be that yet the business owner has to work harder and keep trying to work on themselves, and to be a great communicator and people person. But by nature, it's harder for them than it is in other roles and other people, because they do have so many responsibilities, and their mind is complicated. It's complex. When you're visionary, your mind's always racing. It borderline, ADHD, or it can be really moving fast, and sometimes their mouth isn't moving fast, but the brain is, right? And so it's really hard for them to get aligned and focus, be laser focused to drive in one direction with the company. It's the way they were born. So you have to understand that that's their nature. It's their gift. And you have to give them a little bit of leeway as well, as being a person. And that's just how they are. And they don't mean anything bad. Like they typically, like, they're really warm-hearted people. They really do care about you. Yeah. It's just they're so busy, and their mind's wandering so fast. It's hard for them to stop and do that thing, right?
I truly believe that most leaders, even the less than competent ones, or the ones that can be toxic or bullies or whatever, I truly believe that it's almost never malicious. It's not intentional. They just don't know any better. They have bad habits. It's things that if they were fully aware of it, they probably would be super embarrassed by, and they may have some blind spots. And so, be patient. Just like we want anyone to be patient with us, be patient with them, certainly. And something you were talking about earlier, which also really resonated with me, is, you have someone come, you hire a person, you have a job description, you have a job posting, they come in, they're probably never really looking at that after that first day or week. They're just trying to grapple with the realities on the ground. And now you need to make sure, as their leader, as they're reporting to you, are you creating an environment of psychological safety and empowerment where they can come to you for insights, for support, And are you having regular coaching conversations with them so that you can develop mutual relationships of mutual accountability and trust? And good leadership is built on the foundation of trust. You can't micromanaging doesn't trust. And I guess the other side of the spectrum wouldn't be trusting either. Ultimately, we have to have that mutual accountability. We build that trust over time. And then that allows me as the leader to lean more heavily on them and their expertise, recognizing that I probably don't have all of the expertise of everyone on my team. And that gives them the confidence to know that they can assert themselves, that I actually expect them to assert themselves, that I expect them to push back on me and my thinking and my ideas, and that altogether it's the rising tide lifts all ships. Like, we're going to help everyone be successful together. And that only happens as we trust each other.
Yeah. I agree. And that's why that one-on-one, like weekly, if you can't make it, then, both parties can't make it. Okay, fine. Like, but I try to never skip a meeting that I've scheduled, but it's important to put it on the calendar because you will forget. Leaders get busy, like you'll forget. But I also, as you were talking about that, it reminded me of how important delegation is. And because the number one problem that people have is time, and they're in charge of their own time. And a lot of times that time is being taken up because they haven't delegated things they're doing to their team so that they have an open door. And I remember a job that I had working for the Kansas City Star newspaper. I was in the direct mail division. So dating myself with newspaper that doesn't exist much anymore. But I remember my manager always had an open door. I could walk in, even if she was busy. She would, I could tell she was busy at times and frustrated, and her eyes were, bugging out. She would put whatever she had down, and she'd be like, "How can I help you?" Like, it was like a help desk. It was incredible. And I'm like, that was awesome. She understood, and many business owners do, that when you're in leadership, you're working for them. And that is for CEOs, especially. That is the way that I was able to take my busy mind and be able to frame things so that when I went into work every day, I was in the right frame of mind. I was showing up, and you heard that term. I was showing up, looking available, looking like I was a person who cared, because I knew I was there to help each and every one of them if they needed help today. So it changed my outlook, and it really helped grow my agency. So.
Yeah. And ultimately it's building on those people foundations, delegating, empowering, helping people to make better use of their time. All of that leads to these metrics that are going to impact the bottom line. It reduces turnover, it increases retention, it increases productivity and innovation. When you have employee engagement and satisfaction, that increases customer satisfaction, retention, and loyalty, which of course strengthens the bottom line. All of that goes together to ultimately increase profits and help the organization succeed. And so while it's certainly the right thing to do from a human perspective, like we want to treat people with dignity and respect, it also makes a whole lot of sense from a business perspective, from a simple dollars and cents profit motive, that we need to focus on the people in our organizations. That's what's going to help our organization succeed in the long run.
Amen to that. I want to shift. We're talking about people. I want to shift real quick to something. I have really been noticing this trend. So I grow, buy, and sell businesses. So it's what I do every day. I really help CEOs with their entrepreneurial journey, right? It's fascinating. But this trend that I'm seeing right now is really cool. It's not something that nobody knows about. Everybody knows it's happening, but the dynamics are really cool, which is, after COVID and everybody went home and started working from home. That was great for some people. For some, it was a struggle, right? And they missed that culture and the energy of being around other people. And now what's happening is we see a lot of businesses asking everybody to come back, and my brother-in-law the other day said, "Yeah, everybody's been asked to come back. We're full time again back at," and the traffic is in Kansas City's back to rush hour traffic again, and I have to recalculate my times to go anywhere. So what's interesting is that happened, and now there's this thing going on that's really cool, which is everybody is being able to pick and choose their lifestyle. And what I mean by that is now you can look at jobs and roles and say, okay, this company is a everybody in the company business, and they like internal culture and they're big on culture. Or I'm more of an introvert. I can only tolerate people for so long. And that's not a negative thing. We're all wired differently. Some people have, different energy levels when it comes to how long they can deal with other people. And so some people would prefer to stay at home. Some people would prefer to do a little bit of both. And so, back in the day, we didn't have this choice. You went in the office or you got fired, right? Right. And the COVID was everybody was at home. Right now, businesses are starting to understand who they are as a company, and they understand like what their culture is and what their people want. And so now as a person going out to find a job, you can right match the right company with your personality or with who you are as a person. And that is another element that we had never had before. We've never had this element before of choice. So I think it's a fascinating situation where not only can you work in the industry you want, but now you can work in the type, and you can choose the company in that industry based on their work, what their expectations of work are, and it works with who you are. And so your passion and energy about your role will be good throughout the day and throughout your life. And I think everybody's going to live a healthier lifestyle moving forward, I think.
Yeah, I love those insights. It's super interesting to see how things will continue to morph and shift in terms of the nature of work and how and when we do our work, all of those sorts of things. Well, Ryan, it has been a real pleasure. I know at the time I need to let you go to get on with your busy day, but before we wrap up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your podcast, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Sure. You can go to healthybrands.biz. You can see our services we have there for coaching and for business selling. You can go to LinkedIn and join the Growth Engine LinkedIn group. It's growth-minded COs, CMOs, marketing leaders. So we have our tribe there. And, I'm writing a book called The Growth Engine, How to Build a Growth Engine. And it's a step-by-step journey to be able to take any small or mid-sized business and expand it and grow it. So a lot of things going on right now. And it's really exciting. And, as far as the final word on the topic today, I would just encourage business owners to really reach out for help. Focus on what you're doing, and as far as what you're doing with the company and the people in it, focus on what you're doing, have a clear message, and then everybody else give that guy a break and support him or her, and understand their people too, and they really mean well most of the time. So give them a break as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Ryan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Ryan and his team can do for you. Check out the podcast. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.